Hi friends, happy spring. My name is Sydney. This is my garden and welcome to my March tour. We have about 40 minutes until sunset. I stopped work in the middle. I was putting some drip up. So I haven't cleaned up for the day, but because the sun is setting soon, I decided, and because it's the last few days of March, I decided to go ahead and just get out here really quick. One thing you'll probably notice, I have my shade cloth up. Really, that's quite early. We're barely in March, but last week, or maybe it was like a week and a half, we had a huge heat wave. We were, mid to high 80s, even all the way up to 94 once or twice, which is crazy for March. It was so hot. Mesquite tree in the back still doesn't even have any leaves, and yet we were in the 90s. So all of my cool season stuff that I was hoping to get a little bit more life out of was frying up, and I took some quick action and put up my shade cloth. We'll start over here in the front. I'll have to insert a clip from a couple of weeks ago when these tulips were blooming. They were so pretty. They were pink tulips. I don't remember the variety, but they were pink. I'll insert a clip here. I have some alyssum. I have nasturtiums here. Look at this sunburn from that heat wave. Just not good. A snapdragon there in the back. On this trellis, I'm going to be growing cherry tomatoes. So I have 2 cherry tomatoes on this bed and 2 cherry tomatoes on that bed, and they'll be growing up this arch. I'm really excited about that. The reason why I put cherry tomatoes over here, when we get really hot, everything kind of takes a break and is just like trying to stay alive and not really actively growing. And then when it starts cooling off in the fall, these beds just slowly start losing sunlight until they become pretty much full shade for maybe most of December, January, half of February. So if that does become the case, and I am barely starting to get my fruit production again once it's more shaded up here, a cherry tomato, it'll be a lot more likely and a lot easier for the plant to give me some cherry tomatoes with that reduced sun, rather than like 2 years ago I had put a beefsteak here, and I pulled a lot off the plant, some nice big juicy tomatoes, but they were all green, and they had to ripen inside. So I thought cherry tomatoes would be a better idea. Last year I had loofahs on here, and similar thing, a few did ripen all the way, like not even until January or February, but it probably would have been a lot more productive if they had been in a better spot. Those tomato cages are empty, but I'm probably going to be putting either peppers or eggplants. I haven't decided. This bed is the same pretty much, except for it has kale in the back. The other bed had broccoli, but that I think maybe that shade thing, I'm not sure, but I've tried 2 years in a row with broccoli over there and it just goes straight to flower, so that didn't really work out. I've got the cherry tomatoes here. Oh, both beds actually on the back pole of my shade structure have a dahlia, and on the front pole they have a honeysuckle, so hopefully that works out like my imagination. I also had in both beds put a lot of ranunculus, but sadly I don't think I'm going to get hardly any ranunculus, especially compared to how much I planted. We were just too hot. We didn't really get a good cool period when they were starting to pop up. I'm pretty sure some of them fried, and a lot of them just didn't even come up. So there's always next year, I guess. Here's my little green stalk alley. And this green stalk, well, in these 2 middle ones, they're the least full, but I actually had a lot of stuff that had overwintered, like this Thai basil overwintered itself. Obviously this cabbage, and I have harvested, I think, a red cabbage, maybe 1 or 2 cauliflowers from in here, but I got some cabbages in here from the fall, and then I also have some peppers that overwintered. I left everything, all the foliage, to get all gross over the winter, and then when the last frost passed, you should probably wait like 2 weeks, but I was just so impatient because I really don't like the way like crusty winter plants look. So pretty much that same week of my last frost, which was first week of February, I cut all the dead back and they're starting to sprout back. So I've got several pepper plants. I have no idea what this is, but it's huge. And then I have various random things, like this is a pink carnation. I have a stevia back here. I do have like a small, I think this is the good-hearted tomato in, oh no, not this one. This is a huckleberry, I think. This is a huckleberry. This is the good-hearted tomato. And it has a tomato on it. Nice. And I have that also in here. Right here. And it also has a tomato. And then this one is more full, but it's full of a bunch of spring stuff that'll probably look crusty very soon. So I have like some random leftover anemone corms that I stuck in here. I have some stock that is just going to seed. This calendula is a volunteer. I don't know if it's a volunteer like seed or if it came back from the roots, which would be kind of weird from 2 years ago, but maybe. More peppers that overwintered themselves. This is looking really good. This is a dianthus from last year. I actually didn't know they were perennial until this didn't die. And it's not one of those that's just like, well, actually, I don't know. I was going to say it's not one of those that's just a perennial because I'm in a higher zone. Maybe it is. I don't know. I have this, I think, is like a random anise hyssop that I had left over. This is obviously a snapdragon that's going to bloom soon. So yeah, lots of stuff in here. And then this one is the leaf. It has shorter pockets. So this is mostly herbs. I've got this cilantro that went to seed and the bees love it. And these are really pretty for bouquets inside. So I definitely left that. There's some lettuce in here for me to get. This green stalk stays a little bit more protected, so that's a good thing. This lettuce didn't completely fry up like some others that you'll see here soon. Thyme. Parsley that just volunteers itself from 2 years ago. Right by my green stalks, I have kind of my little nursery lane of my seedlings and plants that need to get planted. I have zinnias that I left way too long and some gomphrena that really need to get planted. A couple random tomatoes. I've got, these are my dahlias right down there. Those are dahlias that I pre-sprouted inside. This coleus did not like being up potted and then left outside. I'm really bad at hardening off. And then the heat wave came and that coleus is pretty much no more. Then I have right behind here some gorgeous plants that I just picked up. I got a Lowe's gift card for my birthday and these were 3 for $12, these perennials. And I have never seen a dianthus in that peachy color, but it is so beautiful. Oh, and this is a lettuce that I must have dropped when I was seeding my lettuce over here and I just left it. But I've got this lavender. And these carnations that I don't know exactly where I'm going to put them, but I just love these together. Here I have my peppers that I started from seed back in January, and they are looking gorgeous. Much better than my peppers from last year. Oh, and a couple eggplants. Like, what are these? These are popping off and blooming before I've even had the chance to plant them. These are the Fire Away Hot and Heavy, which is from Proven Winners, so that's probably why they're blooming like crazy. But a lot of these also have buds, but they're bigger, so those seem to want to focus more on the blooming. This bed here in the front is just like my favorite right now. It looks so pretty. We have pincushion flower. What's the other name for that? Pincushion. We have some scabiosas. I'm pretty sure there's a weed there in the middle, but I'll wait till the flower starts to look suspicious. I've got some 3 red acre cabbages up front, lots of anemones popped in, and then something just adding straight to the beauty so much is all my red romaine lettuce. Yay, so pretty. And then I also have, I think this is Merlot. This was like a free seed, but this is why I love red lettuces. They're just so pretty. So pretty. I have snap peas still in here. Definitely wanted the shade cloth for that because these were just barely starting to put on some peas, and I've harvested twice now, and it looks like I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow or the day after. Here I have this big old parsley plant, and parsley is a biannual. This is its second spring, so it's flowering, but I like parsley flowers. They're pretty. It'll make me seed and hopefully reseed itself in here. And I mean, whenever I eat parsley, it's mostly for the look. I honestly don't think it has much of a taste, or much of a taste that I like anyways. So I don't really notice a difference on the flavor when it's bolted like that. And this is a host plant for swallowtail butterflies. And last year on my parsley, actually in the fall, so just, a few months ago, I had seen the caterpillars. I had like 2 or 3 caterpillars. I ended up going out of town for a month, so I didn't, get to see if they turned into butterflies, but I hope no birds got them. They were on my green stalk actually over there. But there was like 3 of those caterpillars, and then of course I've seen a handful of those butterflies. This other 8x4 right behind that other one we were just at has so that one is pretty much everything in it is barely coming in now, and that's because it's also in the front. So in the winter it is in full shade up until about like maybe middle of February. Then it starts to rapidly change and it starts to get some sun, and really in March is when it starts to get sun, and that's why everything over there's exploding and beautiful right now. But compared to this one behind, like you can see, I've stopped harvesting off this broccoli and it's bolted. I want to get some seed because this actually did give me a really nice broccoli head, and I struggle with broccoli. It goes to flower because even in the winter, even in December, we'll have days in the 70s. So I kind of struggle with broccoli. This did give me a nice head and good amount of side shoots, so I want some of this seed. I left that, but I harvested other cauliflowers, other broccoli in here, and completely got rid of those plants. I have carrots that were getting shaded out by this big in the front. I had just like tons of arugula. I did not expect it to get that big because my first year growing arugula, it definitely did not get anywhere near that big. The leaves were like, seriously, the leaves were like this, like kale, was kale sized leaves. So those carrots are quite behind. Hopefully I still get a little something. I have celery, which I don't know, maybe it's time to harvest because look, this one's bolting. I should Google when it's time to harvest. I think it actually might be because it looks pretty good in there. What do you guys think? Should I harvest this? This is pink celery. We don't eat that much celery. I don't really like the texture, but it was pink celery. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty. So I grew that. I have lots of dill that went to seed, another host plant for the swallowtail. There's some sort of bug in there, hopefully a friendly bug. I have some Brussels sprouts, and in this bed and that bed on the poles, I'm hoping to grow dahlias. I also struggle with dahlias. This year I made sure to put them inside the main garden. That way the shade cloth is on top, because my dahlias just like fried up. They got like this big. I planted them directly in the ground in my zone. They won't die in the winter, but I pre-sprouted this year because I think that outside, even if our days are warm, the nights are still cold until maybe May or April. So it takes them a while to wake up and sprout outside. And then by the time my dahlias had sprouted, it was too close to when we were getting hot. They only had the chance to get like this big, and then they just fried up when we were into our hot days, which, you know, if you're lucky, is pushed off until the last couple of weeks in May. Right behind us, I got 2 round beds with some spring flowers. Again, these are looking rough. I erected this shade cloth last weekend and it really needed it. So I've got like some snapdragons. These pansies just like fried up. Those are gone. The hyacinths bloomed a while ago. They're pretty, but I don't know. I struggle with thinking hyacinths are worth it because they're pretty for like 2 days. I just haven't cleaned them up from in there. In here, I have some sweet peas that I don't know if I'll get anything out of. They started to take off a little bit. Then we got that heat wave. I don't know. They're looking crusty. They were shaded out by all my brassicas I had in here. I had like 3 broccolis and 3 cauliflowers. Those have all been harvested, and I've moved on to my warm season. And just recently, like maybe a week ago I think, or maybe even less than that, I put my zucchini in here. This here, I have still my spring stuff in actually both beds. My eggplant from last year, which I wasn't really trying to do, overwintered. I kept that one, especially this one I left alone, and I actually harvested a couple of eggplants in like January because our frost was really late. But this one I didn't really want to keep because I had tons of brassicas in there, and I kept hacking it back and it kept growing back. And then once we got our frost, I was like, oh yeah, that got it for sure. And look at that, has tons of leaves. So I've got 2 eggplants in here for the long haul, I guess. More sweet peas. This one actually has a flower. Maybe. I harvested 1 stalk of my Brussels sprouts already, and I have 2 more in there. This looks like a victim from the heat wave. This plant is way too small to have put on its not cabbage. This plant is way too small to have put on its cauliflower. So that's unfortunate. I'm not going to get anything out of this, but I'm going to be putting peppers in here, so that's fine. Get out of my way. Look at this cabbage in here. This is from last year, and it made a little, and it looks like it kind of did that again, but last year it made just like a tiny little cabbage that wasn't worth it, and we were starting to get really hot, so I just cut it at the base, and then it grew back and made another little cabbage. So I better not disrespect this plant, and I better harvest this little teeny tiny cabbage. Here, another disappointment of that heat wave right before I was able to get that shade cloth up. It looked like my daffodils were getting ready to bloom, and then they just fried up and did this. So they never even opened, which is depressing. I also had a bunch of ranunculus in here, and a few popped up, but I wouldn't have had a gap here, so I have like at least 2 missing over here, maybe a couple more over there missing, and the ones that did pop up don't look so great. Like, look at this flower. This is so short. Ranunculus stems are not that short. I do have some salvia in here from last year that came back. Looks like it's already blooming, so that's nice. Same over here. These daffodils were actually a little bit behind, so I might actually still get some blooms, at least from this one. It'd be nice if they're blooming at the same time. These Swiss chard leaves are kind of in the way. Another salvia is coming back there. These ranunculus look a little bit better, but still not great. Here I have a Swiss chard that is clearly going to seed. Well, I have 3 Swiss chard in here. 2 have officially gone to seed. That third one is working on it for sure. Behind it though, we're already ready for the next season. Well, I do have some spring still. This bed being so close to the wall over there also doesn't get much sun. Really, that 8x4 I showed you just now before we came over here, that footprint, everything behind that and that far to the center of the yard gets good sun throughout the winter, and as you get further back you can get closer to the wall. But these 2 beds here and the beds kind of in similar positions on the other side don't really get sun in the winter. So these carrots and lettuce are still not even ready, but I do have, well, I guess I have a basil that popped up from last year. I have 2 basils in here that I did plant. The Emerald Towers. I love that basil. I think it's really pretty. I have 2 eggplants, which I'm just now noticing look a little crusty. I need to give them a sprinkle of water. In here I have 2 eggplants. And then on this trellis, so it's like a crisscross of 4, I have, I'm pretty sure beefsteak tomatoes. Maybe some of them are indeterminate sauce tomatoes, but basically big tomatoes on all 4 of these. So I have 4 tomatoes over here. The basil and the eggplants are already ready for the next season. And then an amaranth that I will lash here. This amaranth right here that I will be lashing to this part of my shade structure. Right behind us is my asparagus bed. I actually had one that looked like it was ready to harvest. This is its 2nd spring, and you're supposed to wait until they're as thick as a pencil. And I got one that was as thick as a pencil, but I got nervous. Oh, that hummingbird scared the crap out of me. I got nervous and didn't harvest it, and then just like the next day I came out and it was tall as heck and a fern. So missed that opportunity, but you know, it should be a good sign for next year. I underplanted, well, this is why the hummingbird scared me. I have hummingbird feeder here, but I underplanted with some strawberries. This is on the east, so it gets western sun. Woo. These hummingbirds are not afraid of me. They come right up to me to let me know when I need to refill this. Let's get out of its way. It wants to eat, poor things. Okay guys, 40 minutes passes really fast when you just like can't shut the frick up. So we're gonna just move on to the highlights reel. Speed run, garlic, sweet peas, some sort of squash or pumpkin. I just planted this up today and I'm really excited about it. So we'll take like longer than 1 second. I've got Silver Falls Diachondra that I'm going to trail out the front. This is, I don't remember the name. Oh, look, I didn't clean up my stuff. I can tell you the name. 4D Berry White African Daisy. So I got 3 of those here. This is a Hollyhock Margaret. Feverfew Snapdragons. I just popped in some hyacinth bean seeds here and stock. This all needs to come out. That's all spring and got fried up and is ugly. More depressing ranunculus, fried up and ugly. Oh, this one looks a little better. It's actually blooming. But all of these 4 containers had ranunculus, and this is the only one that's kind of doing something. And still not as much as I sowed. So, that is so sad. mint coming back to life. I stuck a random Mexican sunflower in there. Pretty random. I think they get big, whatever. Here's a visual of what you can see what happened when we had that heat wave to the lettuce. But that's okay. I harvested a couple of heads right when I can tell it was getting really hot. And then in this spot, I had a lettuce that I was like cut and come again, that I harvested a whole bag that lasted in the fridge at least a week, like 4 times. So that's fine with me. And then calendula, snapdragons, sweet peas. It's gonna be time to flip this. This spinach just sunburnt, fried up, but I need to just come through and harvest any spinach that seems okay and freeze it. I like to eat spinach fresh, but I make my dogs food, and there are several recipes that use spinach, and when it does use spinach, it uses a lot of spinach. So I need to come through and harvest that and put that in the freezer. I have another green stalk over here filled with strawberries. I'm trying to propagate some runners so I can't flip it, but this side is north. So it looks a lot better than the south side. But now hopefully this whole thing will look better because we've got our shade cloth up. I harvested a couple cauliflowers from in here. So there's 2 more left in the back, but this is basically planted up for, well, and obviously there's Swiss chard in the front, but again, on this arch type trellis that crosses over each other in the top, I have tomatoes growing in the 4 corners, a random basil over there, a random dahlia in the back. I see some dill. Here I tried over and over again, and it looks like this is going to be all the onions I get this year. So, you know, there's a couple in here that look pretty good. Hopefully they don't bolt because I am going to get way less than I got last year. This was supposed to be cucamelons, but I have a really hard time with cucamelons. I think I transplanted them too early. I don't know. They crisped up and died. So I think I'm going to do tomatoes over here and put my cucamelons somewhere else. This green stalk is pretty full, but it's all of spring stuff. This spinach in here, you can tell is about to bolt because it's turning pointy. I have a dill in here. I guess it's probably time to harvest either it's time to harvest or these fried up and are not looking good. This garlic, which it also didn't do so good in my garlic bed over here, this variety. This is the Sonora variety, but it was my saved seed, and really sad. Hopefully I get at least one that I can save from, and hopefully next year is better. Yeah, this all doesn't look that great. This spinach is bolting. I've got some chamomile that is finally starting to flower, but the sun is like eating it. So yeah, I have some poppies down here in the bottom that also are just getting absolutely fried. This arch trellis, I'll be growing more tomatoes on the either side. I think these are Cherokee purple. Oh, they are. I have a sign right there. I am going to be trying to grow rattlesnake bush pole beans up these strings. And then now that those pole beans are starting to pop up and have a couple leaves, I think I'm going to try to mulch with a pumpkin. This is a pretty skinny bed. It's only like 2 feet and I have a lot of stuff in here. So, you know... We'll see. I have a big old hollyhock from last year and a small hollyhock from last year. Don't know why this one is doing so much better, but here we are. In here, I've got my sauce tomatoes. I'm pretty sure I just did Roma this year. So bush tomatoes. This nasturtium looks pretty happy. That's cool. I have some Swiss chard, some sweet peas, and then I have what are these called? Amaranth. I also have an amaranth on this side. More sweet peas. This one's a lot further along. I do see it greening up at the base on the other bed, but both beds have this lantana, which I love. It takes over this whole area, but it attracts butterflies like crazy. So I like that. And then these are huckleberries, which I've never grown or tasted, but it's an annual fruit that's supposed to taste like huckleberries. So yeah, happy about that. I got some calendula and then some 78 times the charm, but I'm trying again regular cucumbers. I had 4 in all 4 corners of this bed, and I only have 2, and of course they're opposite. They couldn't even survive together on the same side, so it looks nice, but I'm not putting all my stock in that, and I'm definitely growing Armenian cucumbers elsewhere. I started those inside just because it's a melon, so if I do it outside, it's going to take forever for it to be warm enough. Like, it's warm enough for it to survive, but it's not really warm enough for it to germinate and take off, and you know, I'm impatient, whatever. I'm growing that inside right now to transplant. You know, this video is showing me that I'm just growing so many tomatoes, and I planted all of them without you. I'm sorry that it didn't take you along, but you know, it just be like that sometimes. The cool season is really when we're really busy. That's when you gotta hit go and get all your stuff done. So, you know, the camera does slow you down a little bit, but you know, I can show you now that they're looking happy and are done with the transplant shock. So I've got more tomatoes to grow up this arch trellis. On the outsides, I don't remember, but it's some sort of, it's an indeterminate. Oh, there's a tag. Gold medal. So I put the gold medal indeterminate beefsteaks to grow up the trellis. And then in the middle, this is, I just got a random pack of burpee seeds. It is a bush steak hybrid. So it's a beefsteak tomato in bush form. So I'm growing them in the middle here, and I figured I can use this trellis structure to kind of Florida weave and keep these good enough. That's the hope anyway. Marigolds in the back, French in the middle, and then I've got some African marigolds, the Cracker Jack, which one looks like it's getting ready to bloom. I thought that this was anise hyssop, but it's stock. And there's a tag here, so I don't know why I thought it was anise hyssop this whole time, but I got stock in there from the fall, and then pretty close together, but I think it literally says on the seed packet that I only need 12-inch spacing, and I'm thinking it's because these are the little ones. So I have sugar pie and baby bear pumpkins to, you know, spill out the front, be a living mulch. Hopefully that works out. They were looking rough for a while, but now they're starting to look good as soon as I put the shade cloth up. And then of course, as soon as I put the shade cloth up, we're back to the 70s, but whatever. I'm ready for if another heat wave comes, you know? Better to be prepared. Here, I'm also a little bit worried about because of our weird hot spring. I basically filled this whole bed with cool flowers, so it's mostly snapdragons. I got a couple Ami. I'm not worried about those. Those did okay for me last year, even when it was hot. And then in the very back, I have straw flowers, which I've never successfully grown because I think the seed packet recommends that you sow them outside, and I kept trying that and it wasn't working for me. So last year I, you know, kind of missed my window, and so this year I sowed them inside and brought them out as little seedlings, and I finally am getting straw flowers. The 2 in the middle, several weeks ago, I harvested the flowers. Like, I'm talking, we're about to be April 1st on Tuesday, and I must have gotten those maybe mid-February. So it's been like a month, and I was like, maybe they don't rebloom, but now I am happy. I see some buds and then some straw flowers there. It's really messy in the back, guys. Don't look. Look away. We're doing a chicken coop. I got a lime tree. This is blooming, and I have a lime somewhere right here. And then I have a mystery citrus over here because it did not have a good start to life. The first couple of years I neglected it. I think we got it in like 2020 or 2021 and left it in the yard for like 2 or 3 years. Then, oh my God, I think that's a hummingbird moth, which though I didn't know that we really had those. They kind of freaked me out. It's gone now on the Salicum. So anyways, this citrus plant is a mystery because it like almost died a million times. So every year it has never fruited. And last year when I thought it was going to fruit, because this one did, which was also a mystery, but now I know it's a lime. I didn't have enough drain holes in there and it was sitting in a bunch of water and all the fruit fell off a freaking again. So I better get fruit this year. I need to know who you are. It could be another lime. It could be a Myers lemon. It could be a Eureka lemon. It could be a Valencia orange. We'll see. This ranunculus worked out. Only one, but I mean, I'm happy to see this. Can you even see this? Let's lower this. Behind my avocado tree, I have one ranunculus that came up, and I planted ranunculus around this whole thing. But you know, one is better than zero. All right, that's gonna do it. Look at that sunset happening over there. So we're out of time. Thanks for joining me today. I wish you a very happy spring, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.